sweet, buttery gravel.
Shut up and sit down.
Butter makes everything better. I really like butter.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Lee Grand, Evan Price, Lance Heffler, and Jake Von Duren. The road may be beautiful or ugly. It may be easy or hard, smooth or rough. It doesn't matter. What matters most is where the road will take you. That's butter.
Butter for president. Butter for mayor. Buddy, I get a lot of use out of that butter. I get a lot of use out of it.
But life ain't no easy freeway, just some gravel on the ground. You pay for every mile you go, spread some dust around. But we all have destinations, and the dust will settle down. This life ain't no easy freeway, just some gravel on the ground.
All right, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von Duren, and I'm here with Lance Heffler.
Lance Romance, live in studio.
Studio.
How you going, guys?
We're going.
Yeah, we're going.
I mean,
Good.
it's
How you
not
going?
I will say the studio part of the in studio. It's a little disappointing after that live showing.
The
last
live show was
week.
fun.
Oh my gosh,
This is
that
a
was
lot
awesome.
lonelier room today.
It is
It's only four of us.
just the four.
Just the four of us.
Across the table from Lance, Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look good. You look good.
You look good.
You're looking good. I do like the way you look tonight.
Now we know that Matt can see you
I
when
assume-
you're watching this too,
I assume you're watching this at night,
with a
and-
camera on your phone or computer.
and you're looking good. Yep.
And last but not least, Evan Price.
Evan.
Oh, that just so ruined my intro.
I hadn't used that in a while, and I needed to bust it out again.
I like it.
How you doing, Evan?
Oh.
So today I'm drinking. Coca-Cola has come out with a new energy drink. Have you guys seen this? And this probably isn't new. Like somebody's gonna comment on here and be like, "That's been out for 2 years," but I just saw it, so it's new to me.
It's new to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I take a sip of your drink?
You can take a sip of this drink, Matt.
New kind of like
there we go.
bike computers for you.
There we
Evan.
go. Yeah, Garmin just came out with a computer that
Garmin
tracks your
just came out.
GPS. Yeah.
140 calories.
Only
all right,
natural
vitamin
goodness.
B6 or something. I don't know. A lot of sugar.
A lot of sugar.
Let's see.
All right, give me like just three good reasons why you would put that garbage in your body.
I can give you zero good reasons why you
Okay. It kind of tastes like flat Coke.
All right.
Yes, that's exactly what it tastes like.
Yeah.
And I love flat Coke, so
Do you?
that's good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if you're a triathlete.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can understand if you're like, trying to ward off a bonk, or you're just like completely gassed from a great workout or a ride.
These are not like a daily drink thing
It
for me.
shouldn't
This
be
is
flat.
at most
I-
once a week.
We heard you over the radio open the can. It shouldn't be flat.
That's
so why does
true.
it taste like flat Coke?
Probably because there's so much sugar in it, it just bogs down the carbonation to where all you can taste is syrup.
It's syrup.
Yeah. It's basically carbonated syrup.
Excellent. All right, let's kick this thing off with a little backpedaling, fellas. Matt, why don't you start us off today?
I would love to start us off.
Do that.
Yes,
I had some fun workouts this week that you
good.
guys don't know about.
Oh,
Are they secret workouts?
secret workouts.
My secret workouts are actually when I wake up at like 5 in the morning and I go run with my wife and we go up and down my street, which we did. We did one of those this week.
It's about, 0.3 of a mile?
It's down to the end of my street and back is a half a mile. And so we just
Okay.
do that.
So you're never more than like a few
Quarter
minutes
mile.
from home.
We're never more than a
Sprint
quarter
from
mile
home.
away.
Is this in
from
case you
the-
hear the
the
kids
kid.
like screaming, or
Yeah,
do you
I
think
mean,
you can hear
They're
them from
running
that
down the
distance?
cul-de-sac half naked, screaming. Oh, there was a
Oh,
problem.
thank God we stayed only a half mile away.
Wait, I'm like, wait, it's Thursday. That's what they do. On Thursday, they run down the street half naked.
That's normal Thursday.
Our,
Same
our
with
neighbors, our neighbors love us. But yeah, it's so that if they wake up and they need us, that we can get to them or whatever. And
Gotcha.
the older ones are fine. The 4-year-old, it's kind of like the younger two might freak out a little bit. The older one would be like guys, they're not here. Let's watch videos. Like
Yeah.
this is what we dream
No,
about.
Ethan Smart. He's like, no, guys, we need to take advantage of the
Take full
situation. They're a
advantage.
quarter-mile away right now.
So so that's fun. It's super fun. I'm hoping to do more of those because we're just starting to introduce some of that stuff, and eventually we'll start to go further out, venture further away from the house. But I had a really fun workout on Wednesday where I did we did basically a birthday workout for Sean and Shelly. Sean Henry. He's a listener of the podcast. He turned 50 years old, so happy birthday, Sean.
birthday, Sean.
Yep. And so here's what he wanted to do. This is his idea. Go to the pool. And he actually got the idea from like Jake and the podcast, and kind of like, hey, on your birthday you go do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So it was, you go to the pool. We did 50-50s, and we had a ton of people show up. So I get to the pool and we're like, oh man, there's like 15 of us doing this workout.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. So we do 50-50s. We get out of the pool. We go and we do a 50-minute like spinnerval type workout, which included like 50 kind of climbs, and they were all different distances and stuff like that. That was awesome. It was more fun than I've had on like a bike trainer as long as I can remember. It's crazy to me that was fun.
Yeah.
We listened to like the number one hits from
The 1950s.
whatever, I think his birthday was January 22nd or something like that. So whatever the hit was for that particular day. So all these different hits. And then we're just like, what song is this? Boys to Men? Like I can't figure this out. So that was super fun.
Yeah.
Then we went out and ran 50 minutes, and that was fun too. It was just it was like one of those things where
workout.
I finished that workout and I was like, I haven't had that much fun in a workout in a while. So that
to
was
celebrate. We need to have enough people so that everybody's birthday can just be a fun workout day.
And then we went to Hopworks that night and had beer, which
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
yeah.
Even more fun for you.
Yes. Then on, I'm trying to think of what else. Rode with a team. We did I think I did the Tuesday one. I don't think I did the Thursday one.
Sure.
But I could only hang with you guys for a little while because I don't know. It seems like you guys are ready to rock when we start up these days.
Yeah, we always give recommendations. I
Like,
say we.
hey.
I give recommendations
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what we're going to be at for watts per kilogram. Just to kind of keep everybody together,
Yeah.
and people get a little.
They get
feisty
antsy.
and-
Why are you all looking at me?
I don't know if it was. I
love
don't know
how
if
the-
it was your fault, but it
The
was.
universal
Lances off the
language,
front.
yeah. The universal language is like 3 watts per kilo, and that could mean 4.5 or
Right.
2.
Well,
That could
usually
mean
it's
anything.
like on the we start up pretty chill, and then it's like on climbs we give ourselves a little bit more space to roam, and I don't know. I just can't hang with you guys right now. That's okay.
Just keep
I got-
riding. Keep
keep
coming
riding.
back. It'll happen.
If you do 50 hill intervals every Wednesday, I'm pretty sure you're going to be fine.
Well,
So
we'll see. And then on Saturday, I had so I signed up for another one of the spinnerval classes because I was like, oh, that was fun. Let's do another one of those. And so I signed up for that. And then that night before, my older brother was like, hey, been listening to the podcast. Can we do one of those birthday things? I want to ride either 43 miles or 43 kilometers on Zwift. Do you want to ride with me tomorrow morning? And I was like, I'm signed up for all this other stuff, but yes, let's just do it. And he was like, can we do it at 6? And I was like, actually, I'm swimming at 7. That doesn't give us enough time. Can we do it a little bit before 5 a.m.? And so I got up at 4:50 or whatever. We got rolling or whatever. And so I was only able to get 43 kilometers in before going to the pool and swimming. But then did that class and then went out for a little run with Bob Croucher on Saturday, which it was just like, man, this is a good week of training.
You had
It was
a
kinda
great
like-
week of training.
It was kind of like one of those things where I was like, I feel like my old self again, just having fun. And then I got to run with the Evan Price
and Bob again.
and
Bob
Bob
was-
Croucher on our Sunday Lakeside Long Run.
Oh, nice. How many people are showing up to that?
We got a solid show. There was like
It's
10
not huge.
last time.
Alan Plank was there.
Oh,
yes,
good.
again.
And Alan Plank will be super happy to hear that today, after running with him yesterday, I am super sore. Like, could barely walk down the stairs.
Alan got fitter in just like the 3 weeks he was here.
Yeah.
Like, got significantly fitter on the run.
He can
in
just
3
like
weeks.
look at a pair of running shoes and get
Yeah.
faster. He can like
He's such a natural athlete.
Spin his bike backwards,
Yeah.
one rotation, and then he'll
Gain
just be
10 watts.
faster.
TP just goes up.
He's a beast. So I told him this on the run. He wouldn't mind if I shared it. In the past 2 years, 2-ish years, he has gotten so much faster as an athlete, triathlete and cyclist. And when someone like works hard like that, you got to be happy for him. So it's just super
And Alan's
awesome
one
to
of
see
those
him.
few triathletes that has gained respect in like the crit style racing, cycling.
Yeah.
world.
Not only that, but the cyclocross
Yeah.
scene, he
Right.
went out there and like crushed it.
Yeah.
In the fives, he was so fit. I
Yeah.
mean, he had
crushing those fields, and
yeah,
that's
he didn't have any business being there, but that's where you need to start when you've never
Yeah.
done anything before. But he was crushing people on his mountain bike. He went up to the fours and did the same thing. And I'm venturing to guess that he would have done the same thing in the threes had he been able to continue racing.
he's actually for some of the younger athletes that I coach. He's the one that I like to point to now.
Like, hey, if you
and
work
just say,
hard,
like, hey, cycling's important, and if you ride with cyclists like Alan does, you get fast. So
He actually won the best all-around rider for the whole year for Obra for Cat Force.
wow.
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go triathlon.
Yeah.
Let's go triathlon. Yeah.
So he was in it. Good for
Well,
him.
it was out of PIR. It was Allen, and then was it Snodgrass? Ben Snodgrass? Is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Another triathlete.
Another
that
Me
you
and
guys have
Alan were
referenced
actually talking about that because they went head to head
Yeah.
a couple times, didn't they?
But they would always be like playing protagonists, you know,
Yep.
doing good work off the front. And he and Ben would both get accolades from Luciano Bailey, who's the PA announcer for a lot of the racing up here. So
Yeah.
good times.
Good times.
Something about like swimming and running.
Sorry, pre-podcast joke there.
We're gonna talk about buttery gravel.
Buttery
roads at some
gravel.
point.
Buttery gravel.
Sweetness. Evan, would you like to backpedal?
Me and Jake went on the Yamhill ride on
Oh,
Saturday.
Lance
we
didn't go?
We did a race recon, and no,
We'll
Lance,
get to that.
Lance did not make an appearance.
I did not
at
make
this.
it.
Okay, I thought I was like the odd man out.
I definitely wanted to be there, but we'll get to that.
Yes, yes. But yeah, that we got really lucky with the weather. Super lucky.
Oh
with the
my
weather.
gosh, that was
It was beautiful.
I wouldn't change a thing about that entire
No.
ride. Like we
No.
were
The
like all like
temperature was perfect.
The day before, even looking at the forecast, going, "My God, this is going to suck." There was like at one point in time, there was like a 1 hour window where it was just clouds and everything else was rain. And I'm getting reports saying it's going to be downpours followed by rain. I'm like, well, if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. So
That
get out
was-
there and do your thing.
There's gonna be some loose, wet, muddy gravel there.
We rolled into Yamhill. Blue
Sunny.
skies,
Yep.
sun, and it was cool. So you're not overheating. Granted, I did still overdress. Dang it! But
I think we all just were in winter mode still.
Oh, yeah.
And not realizing that, like, oh, this is not cold.
it was like low 50s, which when you're out gravel riding, that's perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
It was.
the roads were all nice.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, that gravel going into what is it? April is when Yamhill is, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that gravel right now looks awesome. Like, if it
Yeah.
can stay just like it is right now, that would be
I was impressed. I
amazing.
mean, the potholes were kind of a minimum. There wasn't a lot of washboarding out there. The gravel was in good condition, and you got to venture to guess that they're probably going to clean up some of the stuff that was problematic.
There was
when
only-
springtime rolls around.
There's only one turn where I saw my life flash before my eyes. And for a 60-mile gravel ride, that's not too bad if only
Yeah.
once you fear for your life.
You know what?
so-
I can probably think of the one that I was.
You know
Yeah,
exactly.
you came into a little hot and it's a little thick on the gravel. If you hit that at the wrong angle, it's like, uh-oh.
I hit, as Chris Surratt was telling me, I descend absolutely terribly, but I hit that at a bad angle, also not a skilled gravel turner, and also on the outside of the turn. So it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. There was a couple times, though, we were boogieing.
Yeah.
I went back and checked. I thought it was a little bit lower than what it actually was, but I think I hit 46 miles an hour on one of those descents.
Oh, yeah.
That's
So-
scary.
And on gravel.
But
that's
it was
like-
so smooth.
It is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it felt good. And I mean, like, I think I flatted in the first like 10 minutes. I was just
If
spewing a
that,
little
yeah.
bit. And the sealant even was helping, held for the rest of the ride. Just had to pump some air into it. So
Yeah,
it
it's
was
sealed up. That's the beauty
Yeah,
of
it was
tubeless
beautiful.
tires. Yeah.
I know. And then Hatfield and Surratt waited for me, being super nice. And we just hammered and didn't catch everybody. You guys waited for us. But
I
yeah.
told everybody to soft pedal. We did
Yeah.
soft pedal for quite some time, and
Yeah.
then we figured that was enough to get you back on, which you did. You were probably, when we actually
Couple
stopped and
minutes behind on that
regrouped,
climb.
you were like 2 minutes back.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
you're right there.
That makes me feel a little bit better. I was hoping we weren't
No,
holding
you're
anybody
good.
back. But yeah, outside of that, I ran with Matt on Sunday.
That was
That
great. We ran a decent clip.
Yeah,
Ouch.
it was good. I'm feeling good. in the run.
How's the rest of your run? Because
It was great.
did
Yeah.
10 with me, and then you did another.
4, I think 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did 10 miles after the gravel ride, too, which was a 4 hour, 60-mile ride.
I'll tell you what. I'm
Wow.
getting very
Did you
happy
run?
with my run.
Did you
right
run
now.
on the gravel out there? Like, did you just
No,
hop
no.
off
I just came back home and did the
home?
treadmill.
Okay.
So I just need to lock into the pace. So
Yep.
yeah.
Running is going well.
Riding is like super, super fun right now, and I love running, but running is feeling like business. So it's like riding is the fun thing that I do on Saturday, and then after the ride, it's like, all right, it's time to like clock in. And you just jump on the treadmill. It's like an hour at this pace. Just got to listen to music and make it pass. So.
Did you do hills or anything like that?
Not on Saturday. No, Saturday I just locked into like 6:20, 6:24 pace and just said, let's try and hold this for more than an hour.
Okay.
Which felt easy. So
Not butter.
we'll see. No. The ride was better. The runs are never better. Butter before a ride is very, very bad.
Yeah. Lance, what's up, dude? Backpedal.
Where have you been? Where have
You're
you
like
been?
trying to grow back the Lance is subtly trying to grow his like goatee now, I think.
Yeah.
Is what's going on? Is that what we're going for now?
You know, I shaved off that beautiful, handlebar mustache, and I immediately missed it. Immediately. But so I've kind of been subtly growing back some.
Your wife won't
facial hair.
notice. She's not going to notice.
How is she not going to notice the goatee?
She doesn't look directly at his face. Yeah, she knows
How about
better.
this? How about we put everybody going to training camp on call that they need to have a handlebar mustache going to camp?
That would be fantastic.
How funny would that be? Seeing a bunch of people roll into like
Everybody
a
shows
convenience
up.
store wearing a kit and a handlebar mustache.
That is a good idea.
I love that plan.
I think we can do this.
I think this is
we
a good
all
idea.
show up. Yeah, training camp with
That
all
would
with
be
handlebar mustaches
fantastic.
would be hilarious.
Do you remember Whitney? I believe it was last year. Whitney showed up with like a beard, and like every day he would come into the house, and a little bit of the beard would be gone.
Right.
It went from like beard to like beard and sideburn, or like goatee and sideburns, and then it was just like the goatee. Then it was like Fu Manchu. Then every day he was making like little adjustments to it. It was awesome.
See, I have to start early. I do not grow facial hair quickly at all. Not like our friend over here.
Yeah, I'm part Sasquatch.
You just grow
And
you just look at
if
it.
I look at your beard, then I've got like four times the size.
You're
of you.
completely
It's
clean
gross.
shaven now, though. Like, what was the
Yeah.
play here?
But here's the thing: like, I had a huge beard. I shaved it and did
Yeah.
that video, and then literally, like, I was like, man, this beard is right back. Like where it was like, I'm sure the last time we did our podcast, it was like a pretty thick. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yep. Keeps coming back. I don't know why.
I like it.
Gotta wax it.
Anyway, so my week, let's not talk about facial hair.
What?
Although I like that plan. Can we just stay with it? All right, I can't even think. I like it.
Your week.
My week, I put in about 14 hours last week. I did end up driving to Utah and back. So
to everybody else's surprise.
yeah, to zero
More time
surprise.
on the bike or in the car?
More time in the car this
Okay.
time. It
This
was
is
kind of a quick trip.
trip.
We didn't leave until later on Wednesday. We decided to go down and surprise my daughter for her birthday. She didn't know we were coming. She turned 23 years old.
Is this Kelty? Which daughter? is this?
Kelty, yes.
Oldest daughter, yep.
My oldest daughter. And so, we drove like to Boise and spent the night in Boise. I did a ride in Boise called the Dump Loop. It is a very popular ride, the Dump Loop, because there's like this 25-mile loop that goes past the dump.
Yep.
And there's 1,500 or 2,000 feet of climbing in it, and so there's some good efforts in it. And so I did the Dump Loop while I was there. It was cold. I thought there was going to be snow on the ground, so I rode my gravel bike. It turned out I could have totally ridden my road bike, but
Did you ride by yourself?
I rode by myself.
Okay.
Yep. We got back, and then we ended up driving all the way to Utah, and we went and just knocked on her door and surprised her with flowers and balloons and gifts, and she
That's
was
pretty
just it was awesome. It was just like it was a great evening.
Now
and
all your
great
kids
time.
are going to be expecting.
I know. We've
They're just
kind
going to be
of
like
blown it.
waiting by the
Precedent has
door.
been set.
Yeah.
Are my parents going to
Are
be
my
behind this door?
parents here?
Don't know.
So that was really fun. So we didn't spend much time there. I had an investor meeting in Utah as well.
Okay.
So I did a
Double
little bit
duty.
of business,
Yep.
while I was there, and then I jammed back. I actually ended up doing another trainer road workout, indoor workout on the Omnium trainer from Feedback Sports in a hotel room. We actually stayed in a hotel room one night.
I saw the picture. That's a pretty portable
Yes,
little
yeah.
turner right there.
That's the beauty of it.
What can you fold that into? Like, could you just put that into a suitcase almost?
You could almost put it into a bigger suitcase, but it comes in its own little carrying case that is easily
It's
checked.
a little bit. It folds down all the way to like a little bit bigger than like a shoebox, right? Like,
Yes.
not that
I
bad.
need to get one of. Gotcha.
You need something?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get that.
Yeah. So it
Pretty light?
Yes, it's very light. It's not that big.
It's
not that
stable and
difficult.
sturdy at the same time. It kinda,
Correct.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Checks a lot
I
of
like it.
boxes.
Yeah, so I was able to get one of my workouts in there, and then I jammed. We drove all the way home Saturday. We spent the full day driving, like 12 hours straight. Drove straight home. So I was home Sunday morning. I actually woke up Sunday morning and I buzzed down and did the Savi shootout.
Hey,
I saw that you did.
Oh,
how
on
many
Sunday.
people were at the Savi? Like this time of
You
year,
would
how many
love
people are there?
that.
I've been to
was-
it once. I loved it.
It
yeah.
was like 30 people.
Oh, that's a big group for this
30
time
or
of year.
35 people. There were quite a few people there. It didn't really rain. It sprinkled a little bit
Right.
because Sunday ended up being fairly good weather.
Yeah.
And man, that was just a fun ride. You know, the Sabi Shootout, it's a local group ride that's put on every Sunday morning. Savi's Island is an island that has a 12-mile loop on it that is pretty lightly trafficked, and the Savi Shootout does 2 loops of that. And it's a drop ride. It is a race simulation
It
ride.
is the definition of a drop ride.
Yeah, it is. It's a race simulation ride. So you show up and you
go easy out to the island.
go easy out to the island. As soon as you cross the bridge, it's game on.
Yeah.
Did somebody attack from the bridge?
There weren't as many attacks.
I feel like people chill out a little bit in the wintertime.
A little bit. It
The
depends
one time
on how
I
many
went,
people
a guy
on
just
certain
went
teams.
straight from the bridge.
Yeah, and some people go and some people don't, and everything got chased down. Nobody got away. I took a couple digs and got 20 seconds up the road with a couple guys, but just didn't get away.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. You take hard efforts. You try breakaways. You pull breakaways back. There's a couple of sprint points where you go super hard
Under the bridge.
Yes,
is the sprint
yeah.
point. I don't know where the other.
There's a
ones are.
12-mile loop, and it ends coming under the bridge that goes onto Savi's Island, and that's the final sprint point.
And then you kind of end next to this like little convenience shop,
yeah, there's
right?
a little convenience store.
Yeah.
On the island. But yeah, it was.
You stop in there, get an energy drink.
Get a Coca-Cola energy drink. Go for the second lap.
It was super fun to be out there and just kind of
Yeah.
mixing it up, and you learn race technique and race etiquette and riding in a pack and riding and watching for breaks, and so that was.
Did you know anyone out there, or
We had a teammate show up, Rodrigo Colon.
Oh, Rodrigo's
Colon.
there. Nice.
Yep, he showed up.
That's his
and
style of racing right
It
there.
is, yeah, flat and with sprints. He's very good at that.
Yeah.
And so, I tried to do some efforts for him a little bit. I know lots of other people just from racing.
Right.
There were lots of people I talked to.
Was Robert there?
Robert was not. No.
The one time I was there, Robert was there.
Yeah, he rode later in the day, I think.
Gotcha.
But
In
yeah.
the thick of training.
yeah, so that was fun to be a part of.
Cool.
So it's not something I have been able to go to very often
Yeah.
because it's on Sunday.
right?
But it just worked out for me.
Full disclosure, I've never been, and I
we
still
gotta
kick
go.
myself about that all the time.
I think
We
you would
need
like
to
that.
go.
Oh yeah. And Andrew Springer, some guy.
Andrew Springer is the guy who started it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he
promotes it every week on social media.
he does a fantastic
Yeah, he
job.
does.
He makes like little graphics for it every week that
Yeah.
are just so clever and so well done.
Are they on?
the guys.
Is it on Instagram?
Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we search for to find it?
Savi Shootout.
Yep.
SAUVIE Shootout. Yeah.
So it's
awesome.
I've threatened to go so many times, and it's just always been one of those things where it just doesn't work right in my schedule to get all the way over there at that time of the morning because of stuff going on with the family or however my race week is set up or
gotta,
my
like,
training program. Yeah.
Pick like a spring weekend.
Yeah,
Where we
yeah.
can just like have, somebody like
And like Lance
cover
said,
for you for a minute.
even if you're not like a Cat 1-2 guy, because those guys show up.
Oh, yeah.
And they're super
Oh, yeah.
strong.
There's some heavy hitters there.
Even if you're not one of those guys or gals, still show up because you learn a lot from this, especially if you want to get better on the road racing scene or in the road racing scene. That's a perfect place to go to cut your teeth and to learn and to pick people's brains and watch how things roll out. You can get a lot of those nuances.
And it even breaks kind of into multiple races too, because there's always kind of that group that'll yo-yo off the back. But for them, it's great because they got to learn how to work together to catch that group. I mean, they basically just end up attacking to try and get back to the group,
Sure.
which is great.
Yeah.
And I know the one time I went, Kim came out with us.
Yeah.
And Kim was killing it to stay with that group. And that last lap, she had to keep on catching back up. But talk about a good workout.
Yeah.
That was
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was fun. I went out there and cut my teeth a little bit with them, which I was just happy that I was in the mix. I was able to stay with
So
them.
you stayed with the league group?
Yeah.
And where'd you end up at?
I think the final sprint, I was like 7th or something like that. I did not stay with the front guys. Rodrigo, I think, won it.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Good for
or
him.
was second. Merrick
Okay.
Latinsky, who is another Cat 1 heavy hitter here in the
Yeah.
Portland area, he was in the mix every time as well.
Sure.
So, yeah.
The picture that they posted to Instagram is just like a group of you guys under the bridge or something like that, and it says, "That sucked. It was too sunny and too nice.
Yeah.
Everyone was too chill. Roads were too perfect. I hate days like that. I'm done with bikes."
Yeah, it was an awesome day. It was pretty awesome.
Cool.
So that's my week.
Sweet. I'll backpedal real quick, and then we'll jump into the next thing. Did a couple of the team rides this week, which was a lot of fun, and I was able to, just between those 2 team rides, log in 4 hours for basically, for me, that's pretty good. And that actually parlayed in. Well, actually, you know what? I did 3 team rides. We'll get into the last one in just a second. But I got in 11 hours this week, guys.
Oh, wow.
That's the first time, and God knows how, the last time I got in more than 10 hours, and that used to be my mainstay, my norm. If I ever was under 10 hours, even by 5 minutes, I'd be pissed at myself. And now I can't even get up to 10 hours just because life and stupid shoulders and stuff like that. But the last time was all the way back in October when I did the MS ride, and for obvious reasons, I was doing a lot of riding that weekend, so I was able to get over that. But I did the cycling team ride on Tuesday, which was a great ride and good workout, and people beating up on each other there, and we did some more work on some hill climbing stuff. So it was a lot of interval work on that particular ride. Then we did the triathlon team ride on Thursdays, which is turning out to be another great ride. We had it was a smaller group. I think there was 5 or 6 people or something like that, but I think more people should show up for that because it's if you're just looking for a good Z2 workout, a little Zone 2 workout, it's perfect for an hour and a half. Alan led that particular ride as well, and it was a good workout.
As we get closer to spring, too, Alan's going to put in some workouts into there, and so will I. So
And
it'll
then-
go like those group rides where you can add in a workout.
Exactly. And then the last group ride, which actually was pretty cool, was I rode with the juniors last night. So
I saw that. Yeah.
the little ones.
Yeah.
So
Hayden was on there with you, right?
Huh?
Hayden was on there with you, right?
No, Hayden didn't. He wasn't on that ride, but there was Whitney Hayden, who was one of
Oh,
our
gotcha.
young juniors.
Gotcha,
She
yeah.
is, God, what is she, 9? She is so flippin' strong.
That is awesome.
And my son was riding with me too. So we're in the office, and I'm on my bike, and he's on his bike. We're both Zwifting away, and the keep everybody together thing was on the rubber band, if you will. So nobody's getting dropped. But at one point in time, one of the kids comes around him, and he's like, God, I'm having a hard time keeping up with that kid. How old are they? And I'm like, oh, that's her. She is, I think I said 9 years old. I think that's how old she is. And he's like, what? He hunkered down. He's like, I gotta catch back up with her. So, but we've got growing interest in the team rides with the juniors, which is pretty great. And I think last night we had only 3 or 4 kids, but that's because this week a lot of the school districts around here are off today, and so a lot of kids are out of school, and parents took them out of town, went to do skiing stuff and whatnot. So
It's like end of winter term or
it's like
something.
grading day.
Grading day. Okay.
So the kids have a 3-day weekend. So
this is what families do with 3-day weekends around here. Is like, let's go to the mountains or the beach.
I think I
Yeah.
parked in your wife's parking
was-
spot then, so maybe I'm in trouble.
no, well, she's an administrator, so she's working today. So,
okay.
But anyway, so
I
that was
about to get yelled at.
yeah. So that was a lot of fun riding with those kids, and our juniors rides are going to be on Sundays and Thursdays, and we're going to have quite a few
remember that.
kids that are going to be showing up to these things and really starting to do a lot of work together. So I'm really excited to see what they can roll into the season with. Should be
Absolutely.
fun. And then, as Evan mentioned, we did that gravel ride, which was butter. So fun.
Buttery smooth.
Until my shoulder wanted to fall off.
No, really? Did it bother your shoulder?
Jake's shoulder made it to about mile 50, and then it was
It started really talking back to me, and then at about mile 50, like Evan said, it was in all kinds of
the gravel took its toll.
How far is the ride?
About 100K. I mean, it's what the
60
race
miles.
is.
Yeah,
60 miles.
So yeah, I was getting like pinpoint like pain that was like starting to radiate out, and I was starting to get like
you really
knots,
can't-
and I was
you
starting
really
to get like
can't
spasms,
relax.
and
Yeah, there's really no relaxing on like you're for your legs or your arms. There really is no
well,
relaxing.
you're starting to climb, and you're like you can't put any pressure on your bad shoulder, and so everything's going on your good shoulder, and like all of a sudden like the good shoulder's like starting to get fatigued, and like the tricep is starting to wear out, and like just falling apart. So the guys at 50 miles all started floating away from me. I'm like, yeah, just keep going. But
me and Jake almost got lost there getting back to.
Yeah,
but
it was good
let the
times.
record show me and Jake rode the longest on that day.
We did.
So.
Do you feel okay today? How's it feel? You take it easy for the.
You know what? It's still a little bit sore today. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I was really hoping that I wasn't going to get into a situation where I hurt it again. But
Yeah.
I think part of it too is doing Pilates on Fridays.
Yeah, we did.
Matt and I
we
do
did
Pilates on Friday.
Neither of us mentioned it.
I think that's probably gonna have to be something I'll have to talk to you about. Maybe moving that to a different day of the week, because parlaying
could do that. Yeah.
like Pilates and then going into a
weekend.
weekend ride, a tough ride. I think
one,
that's
yeah.
proving to be a little bit too much for me.
Okay.
But anyway,
not resting.
here's what it is. All the shoulder crap aside, that was a fantastic ride.
yeah.
Again, that's such a
If
spectacular
Ray
venue.
Stadium Hill has that weather, that would be just 10 degrees warmer. That would be incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good time. So, all right, lead out news. What you got there, champ?
I got a couple of things. We had the tour of Down Under that finished in Australia.
Good day, mate.
Good day. It finished Down Under. It was won again by
Richie Port.
Richie Port. So Richie Port won that. It's been interesting because he started posting all his rides on Strava.
He rides a lot.
Yeah.
Does he?
Well,
rides a
it's
ton.
just like a lot of tour pros don't post to Strava,
Yeah, it's
but
like
Richie
secret.
Port, started posting his rides with his power files and everything.
I'm seeing
on
more
Strava.
pros start posting their power profiles,
Yeah.
which I like that movement. I think that's cool. I think that's really cool.
There is this thing, I don't want them to know what kind of training I'm doing, but come on.
Everybody knows that you're training your butt off.
Not
It's
only
just-
that,
yeah.
but okay, so I see that you did, 4 20-minute intervals at 450. I can't do that
Yeah.
anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do that.
if I just do that, I can beat Richie Port. I
I'm
can't
gonna
even
I'm
do
gonna
that.
go 451.
Yeah, right.
That's how I'm gonna beat
But
ya.
this is why I like endurance sports, is because like obviously the LA Lakers aren't going to post their practice plays and all that, but like in the cycling world, it's different. It's like like you said, it's like
Yeah.
oh cool, you did 10 minutes at 400. Like
Right.
oh let me reproduce
yeah.
that. Oh I can't. Okay.
Can't. So yeah, cool that Richie Port won that. The one thing he did lose, there's a climb up Wollonga Hill, and he's won that like 7 years in a row, and he got beat by a tour rookie.
He did. What is the tour rookie's name? Oh, Lance, I'm trying so hard
Richie,
right now.
Richie
I know.
Port has 45,000 followers. Now he has another one. Wait.
I got it. He was beat on Wollonga Hill by Matt Holmes.
That's what it was. Matt Holmes.
yeah,
Yep.
who's a tour rookie this year.
Which is big because I mean Richie has owned that climb for years.
Yeah,
So
It's interesting.
yeah, so interesting. So well, Garrett, there's some new good tour rookies that are coming on the scene. So it
a
should be
lot of
interesting
good
to see
young
how that
riders
goes.
coming up. Yep.
Did he win that on a Trek bike?
He won that on the Trek team. I imagine he painted over the Trek
Did he
bike
paint-
and is probably riding a Canyon. So
Canyon? Okay. We'll just assume he's painted red.
that was his one deal with Trek. He's like, I'm not riding a Trek bike though.
In other cycling news, the Cyclocross World Championships are coming up next Sunday, February 2nd.
We should have like a viewing party.
Well, it's kind of weird. That is Super Bowl Sunday as well.
Oh,
so,
well, it's a Super Bowl party.
But
Wait,
but-
are you going to be out of town to do your shaving thing?
Yes, I will be. I will not be here. So
So
but
people
Super
that
Bowl's
don't
not like till 4 in the afternoon, and this will go off at like 8 in the morning
Yeah.
or something like that.
It's like trainer ride time.
So for people that don't know, Lance has a group of friends that he does fantasy football stuff, and the loser has to shave their legs or get their legs waxed.
Get their legs waxed. That's
And so-
much more humiliating than shaving your legs.
So Lance loses on purpose every year so that he can get his legs waxed for free because the guys have to
For the
pitch
start
in.
of the season, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I have underperformed in my fantasy football league the last 2 years.
Yeah.
A
Only 2
disappointing
years.
fantasy football career so far for Lance.
Very disappointing.
They know to like make sure that you lose so that it's like he'll play ball. He'll
That's right.
he'll get
He'll
whacked.
do it.
He'll
He'll
do
still
whatever.
do it.
He'll do anything.
It's funny, so I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all
Yeah.
good. So that's kind of exciting. Other than that, not a whole other news. Although there was a tour in China, the tour of Hainan,
Oh yeah, of course.
that was
I
canceled
saw that.
because of this coronavirus
Yeah.
mess.
I did
So-
see that virus. Yeah, it's. I wonder if that is the first cycling race canceled because
Because
of
of
a
a
virus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
freaky, crazy stuff. That's all I got. That's all the news.
Champ Bailey.
Champ Bailey.
Out.
Out.
Love it. All right, our topic for the day. It's kind of timely because we did a lot of this over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Gravel bike riding.
Yes.
Gravel bike ride.
Just
Do you
gravel.
love it or do you absolutely
it.
adore it?
Those are,
Those are your
options.
questions.
I'll play devil's advocate to that and be like, is it the best ever though?
So we're going to jump into gravel and we're going to talk about everything. Get into the history, its growing popularity, pros, cons, and a bunch of other questions.
When we talk about the history, are we just gonna be like, well,
Last
we just,
weekend I rode.
people used to just call it biking because roads were gravel back then. We'll call it history.
We were
Just called
actually
biking.
talking about that during the ride at one point on that sketchy descent.
Yeah.
We got done with that, and I think it was Surratt was saying, he's like, that's like how the tour used to just be.
Yeah.
Like that was just every single descent was that sketchy, and if you didn't have like packed gravel, it was the best thing ever.
And the tires were probably thinner and smaller.
I
and-
can remember back in the
Steel frame. Yeah.
back riding on like 23s or even 21s sometimes. I mean, you've got these razor thin wheels and like tires, and you used to see a patch of dirt and it's like, oh my gosh, don't touch it, go around it.
Right.
And like now it's just like, just hammer it, let's do it.
Yeah.
So bikes have changed quite a bit. And
I
then-
think I rode 18s when I go.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when I go ride
there you go.
my retro bike in Michigan when I borrow my father-in-law's
Did they used
bike.
to? God, really dumb history question here. Do we have a history buff on gravel? Did they used to ride 18s on like those roads?
I bet you they did. 1819s were
Maybe.
pretty popular.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I know at least in the old pictures, it does not look like they're riding 32s. That's for sure.
21s. I think that was
So
later.
let's just ask that history question. Does anybody have any history as to like when gravel really started to take root?
I know when like cyclocross took root.
Well, it's been around for 10, 12 years here in the U.S. and it has really
As, like,
taken off. in
We
the
definitely
US.
have to define that because it's like gravel riding's been around forever, but gravel riding has had as its own bit, like
Yeah.
having its own
It's gravel
races,
racing.
having its own bicycle specific stuff. That is way more recent, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
they never had bicycle gravel. They never had gravel bike categories.
That's been a 6 or 7 year thing.
yeah,
for, you
much
know,
more recent.
Yeah,
for
much
sure.
more recent.
Back in just like 10 years ago, if you're going to go ride gravel, you're not going to jump on anything that looks like a road bike. And,
No.
and for me, I barely even knew what a cyclocross bike was. I'm not as storied of a cyclocross historian as some of you guys are. But if you're going to go ride off road on something like that, like a fire road or gravel road, you're jumping on your mountain bike.
Yeah.
And just to think that, okay, well, I can go ride a road bike on there. I mean, that's cool, but I don't really want to do that. But now they've got a gravel bike that's kind of like that little gap between that bridge between a mountain bike and a road bike. It kind of serves a lot of purposes and checks a lot of boxes for why both of those bikes are great.
Do you know it's a really cool? So this, I knew this off the top of my head and not the Google on my
No,
phone.
because you know,
He doesn't have his phone open.
Back in 1886 in the United States. So actually, when we're talking like what they called mixed terrain racing in 1886 in the U.S. Now in Europe, this was already a thing, but they were looking to use bicycles to replace horses.
Yep.
For more mixed terrain travel at that time. So the Army's 25th Infantry, stationed at Fort Missoula, Montana, was chosen to test this, and they traveled from Missoula to Yellowstone National Park all by bike, and none of those roads were paved. So
Wow.
Epic ride.
there's your first race right there, and I'm
bet-
sure they were
I bet
racing.
you that ride
You
was
know they
epic.
were racing too.
They had some gravel tires on a penny farthing.
I think so, yeah. So I am sure that was quite the epic ride.
Yeah,
That is too
Yellowstone.
cool.
So I think one of the big events that we can really put our finger on for really putting gravel in the mainstay would be Dirty Kansas, right?
Correct. Absolutely,
And so
yeah.
Dirty Kansas actually started back in 2006
Yep.
with
Oh,
really?
34 riders. So that was like it's kind of like
That's
it's
blown
coming
up in the last decade. That's so cool.
Well, it's a decade and a half almost now.
Yeah.
So
you know what? The lottery was announced today.
Are you gonna check and
for
see if you got
Dirty
in?
Kansas. I did not enter.
oh,
I am not that interested in Dirty Kansas.
No, you are.
Really?
You're gonna do it.
It's 200 miles.
but how much elevation gain is it?
it's
Still
like
it's a hell of a hard.
6,000 feet.
You don't want to sit on that couch?
I
You're
don't know.
gonna do it. Don't.
but-
You're only lying to yourself right now.
It's not for the views. You don't go to dirty Kansas to be like, can't wait to see that beautiful view of Kansas.
I think the roads are pretty cool. They look pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's a big event that would be cool to be a part of, but the actual race itself
It's a long way.
I guess I've tamed a little bit in my
Don't believe him.
what I
Words
think I
that are
want
coming
to
out
do.
of your mouth, I don't believe.
I just realized I'm not that good in these longer things.
Yeah.
You know, 100 miles I'm actually okay with. These 200-mile races
It's a
is
long way.
I think I'd be happy and fun for like 120
I also
miles,
don't know how
and
you
then the
race
last
200
80 would
miles.
just suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think Chris Surratt had signed up for the.
I think he was saying he was going to put his name in that. Did he get a berth?
I got to find out. I'm texting him as we speak.
You know what? He would do well.
Chris
He's
respond.
good at stuff like that.
Yes, he is. He's
That'd
done
be right
a
up his
couple,
alley.
and he's won a couple 200-mile races here
Yeah.
in the area.
He's doing like a
some motor.
mountain bike centric sort of race schedule too coming
Yeah.
up. So
Should get him and Andy Levine together. Those two
Oh,
guys
God.
could do some
That'd be
damage.
Yes.
yeah.
Anyway, back to Dirty Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult, hard day, and it's been around for a long time, and it has just grown and grown
Yeah.
and been.
I wonder if more and more gravel races are gonna do that, where it's like, you know, this one was 2006. You said,
Yeah.
that's not that long ago to have that much of a following.
14 years ago. Yeah.
I mean,
to grow that
I can
big.
just imagine, like, I mean, I know Yamhill is just like our backyard race or whatever, but like,
What if
I can-
Yamhill's that in
I can
10 years?
imagine
Yeah.
like these races just getting super popular.
Well, like Crusher and the Tusher.
Yep.
It is like a 70-mile race that was started back in 2010. It's about 10 years old and very, very difficult. Started by a local pro in Utah. And then you have the Belgian Waffle Ride. You have...
Oh yeah, the Belgian waffle ride is. I mean, that's all. Type that into YouTube, and you got all your
Yep.
YouTuber cyclists have all gone to that one.
That's a tough
huge
ride
one.
too. That's not so gravelly. It has gravel
It's
in it.
road and gravel.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
more road than it is gravel.
It's
so.
140 miles.
Isn't that
It's-
kind of the choice? As a lot of guys
Yep.
kind of struggle with, do you go with the road bike
Yeah.
or do you try to go
Yeah.
with your cross?
It's
yeah.
A lot of guys are riding road tires, just a beefy tire, like a 28.
It's like 70. I think it's a 70% road and 30% gravel.
Sounds about right.
Something like that. But won by a Tour Pro last year on a road bike.
Yep.
Okay.
Peter
Makes sense.
Stetina.
When do you think? I mean, does Yamhill get any pros that come out for that, or is there any of those?
Well, this is only
the
their
second
second
year.
year.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Okay.
last year was kind of like, let's try this out and see
Yeah.
how it's received.
It'll grow.
and
I'm sure it'll grow so fast. Yeah.
that was my favorite race on the calendar last year, and I've said that a bunch of times, and I'll say it again. It was a great, fun time. And it's not even. It doesn't even have to be a race for everybody either. It's a fondo, so
it's a
you can just
blast,
show up and
right.
just go do the ride and be a part of the whole experience, or you can go out there and race it. And it's a sanctioned race, so
Yeah.
it's fun.
Good
And you got races like Rebecca's Private Idaho, and they now have a stage race, which
Yeah.
I've done
Which is cool.
3 or 4 times.
Are you gonna do that
And
again?
I am not going to do
Really?
it this year. Yeah.
It doesn't fall into your 52-week training plan.
It misses out.
Sorry, that weekend he has 3 by 10 minutes, and
it's
the
a-
race would be more 4 or
Well,
5 by 10 minutes.
you
it's just
can't-
not. It's just not
it's
going
not gonna work.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
now
week 47 can't be solid like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Please.
it's the same weekend as the start of our cyclocross season, which is really what
You're all in.
going to focus on this next year.
All
Yeah.
chips.
Yeah.
Pushing into
Push it in.
So
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about this. Why is it getting to be so stinking popular? What are some of the pros and cons here of this
Cars.
thing?
cars.
Yeah, that's the number one for me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when I'm talking on my cell phone and driving and hit a couple cyclists, you know,
I ask
It's
him why
just
were they not
another
on
bump.
gravel? Yeah,
you're always getting.
why were they not on
You're
gravel?
always getting blood on your car. That's not funny, guys.
so
Come on, Lance. Don't laugh at me.
I can't help it.
It's not funny.
Sarcasm just makes me laugh.
an increase in population, cars, people driving
Well,
cars, and stupid people driving cars.
Let's come up with something else besides cars because
Yeah.
we're on the radio.
it's absolutely stunningly gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
You're out there, like you might see some barns, you might see some like creatures and animals
Yeah.
and wildlife.
It's less maybe like road racing by its nature can kind of feel elite at times because, like you said, so like Yamhill at its core is like a fondo. Now you can go there and race hard, but you don't have to go and race hard there. I think road cycling, as much as we're trying to change that image, when you pin on that number at a road race, there still is that sense of like, this is you're gonna get spit out the back. Like this is a
100%
race, it's gonna
about
be a hard
performance,
day.
yeah.
You better stay with the group, and
Almost
it's different on a gravel
right.
ride.
It is, but almost every one of these gravel rides or fondos or whatever, there's a whole segment that is racing.
Yeah.
That is going for it. But
Oh, yeah.
but everybody else lines up at the same time.
Yep.
There's no categories in gravel yet.
Yeah.
So
I
there's no
like
category.
that about it though, because so here's something that I learned about, and I could be wrong on part of this, but my French buddy who had lived over here for a bit was talking to me about French and Belgian road racing. They start like those gravel races. Like
Just
you go
open.
to a race, and my buddy joked with me. He was so confused doing American racing because he was joking. He's like, when you do race in France, you ask who won, and 2 people raise their hand. He's like, here you ask who won, and 20 people raise their hand. He's like, it makes no sense. And he was so
Right.
confused. But
It reminds me of like, well, I mean, I don't know, I haven't done gravel racing, but like a road race, like on the running side of things, where you everybody lines up, everyone goes,
1 winner,
Correct.
2 winners, male, female winner. Yep.
and then in back of the pack in those road races that those people aren't killing themselves taking it.
No.
They're jogging and having fun and talking to their friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
Why
the
can't
same,
bike racing
the
be that?
same
Yeah,
feel with
exactly.
gravel
Get
where
that vibe.
Yeah.
I think the reason,
Which is awesome.
The
Yeah,
reason
that's
you don't
exactly
have
how it should
that,
be.
I think the reason you don't have that in bike racing is because you're on the road and you're going hard and it's dangerous.
And a looped course too. You think about a looped course, it changes
True.
kind of the dynamic a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's
you
true.
know.
well, there's plenty of races or fondos. But
Right, there are.
A
There are.
fondo in road racing, a fondo is definitely different than a race.
Yes.
You know, you're entering a race, even though you can race a fondo, and that top 10% is probably
racing,
all
yep.
racing very hard, but everybody else is just cruising and
Yeah.
trying to finish their first century or something like that. And, you know, so that
I
makes
think
it.
that's a good point that Lance is like. I think gravel's done a good job of combining that, because I mean, you look at like a fondo and a road race as 2 separate things. Gravel has almost like brought those 2 things into the same sort of event. Like you can go and be like, I just want to get through this race with my buddies, or you can go there and be like, I've trained 6 months for this race. I'm going to go out there and
Going
try and
for it.
win this race.
Well,
yeah.
the thing about it is because it's so new, we just don't have
Elitism in it.
elitism in it yet, or categories
structure.
or structure. It just
keep it
hasn't
that way.
developed quite yet.
Yeah.
Well, and
and
that-
will it or will it not? I don't know.
Well, there are teams coming into it now.
Yeah. Well,
There
it
are pro
seems
teams are
to
bringing
me
it.
like it is very much on the onus is on the race directors.
Correct.
And they are not it's my impression that they are not cooperating with each other.
Yep.
And that's okay. Like each race is very different and individual, and that's cool. And I don't think anyone has a problem with that. I think, they could like, hey, we're all going to meet and we're going to say yes to categories, and yes, I mean, we're going to follow the road racing structure.
Yeah.
They could easily do that, but
But
they're
it is-
not.
But they haven't
But
yet.
it is cool because each race kind of does have that its own flavor. I mean, like some
Yeah,
road races
which
have
is
that,
cool.
but there are definitely some other road races where it's just like, all right, check this one off the calendar.
But most of the road races are like they fall underneath some sort of
Overseeing
governing
or-
body
yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
and then that is
Yeah.
because we have these rules. Whereas gravel is like, yeah, like can you
Started by a
imagine like
local pro
dirty
here.
We don't
dirty
have that
Kansas?
yet.
Like, can you imagine them being like, oh no, USA Cycling is telling Dirty Kansas what to do? They're just no,
Nope,
we're gonna
that's not
do
happening yet.
our race. Like
Yeah.
no, there's gonna be a couch in the middle of the road. Like that's what we do.
and we want
Yeah.
everybody to stop and take a picture on the couch.
Yeah,
And
like,
that's
that's
what
what-
everybody does it.
That's not USA Cycling.
No.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, like-
USA Cycling's like, I'm sorry, you can't have this race unless the couch is at mile 110.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
but I mean, like smaller races might be easier to influence. Maybe Yamhill or some of
that
these
are
races that are
struggling,
new or
maybe.
whatever. I don't know, but my
But
gut
these smaller
feeling,
races seem to grow very. I mean, they seem to be growing. Now, I'm not looking at their books or anything like that, but it seems like people are
Doing well.
talking
Well,
about it.
Here's the thing. It is like it's in its infancy right now, gravel racing, especially in the U.S. And it's super hot in the U.S. right now, and it's not quite as hot in other places as it is in the U.S. right now. We have this huge growing gravel scene right now. It's like mountain biking in the 80s. It just like exploded, and that's kind of what's happening with gravel right now, which is why we have all this advancement in technology and bikes, and you have tour pros starting to do races, and the races are becoming much more competitive and more difficult to do, or to try to hang with that front group. And so it's just booming right now, and it's unregulated kind of.
Yeah.
So race,
Wild
directors can
west of the
kind
cycling
of
world.
do what they want.
Did you get drug tested?
I have not been drug tested. I actually wore my gravel uniform today because this is the vibe you get in a gravel event. What am I wearing?
Flannel.
That's what
Flannel, and you've got no pants on,
I have
and
no pants and
you've
flannel
got-
and facial hair.
and you got your man.
Do you know what I was thinking about for Yamhill too? Is I think I need to wear a buff or something because my contacts get so dusty during these. Me and Jake were talking about this with. I know you were talking about in California when that happened. Like,
Yeah.
I probably couldn't even ride in the situations you were in. My contacts would be toast and I'd be dead blind. But there's. I mean, like, I need to, as Lance pulls out,
As I
it's
put
not
on my
that
handkerchief.
not that handkerchief. You've been wiping your
Wiping my
face with
nose
that
with it.
disgusting
Give it to
thing.
Lance.
Oh my god!
Lance, just give that hanky to old Evan.
Here you go.
Just
Here
mid race,
you
I'm
go.
like, oh god, I have to do this.
I have to do this.
I do almost every gravel race with a neck gaiter type of thing that I can
Gotcha.
pull.
I need to start doing
that. I
that.
can pull over my nose and my mouth because if it's dry and dusty, and you're in a pace line, and if you're racing a gravel race, you're going to be in a group most likely.
Yeah.
And there's
I
just
was
dust.
planning on just going off the front and just winning it from
Well,
the start.
have
Is that-
at it. That,
This
that
is-
can
no.
happen too.
This is
but-
good
Oh,
advice.
that won't happen? Okay, gotcha.
So, and
are
I
good
only started
tips.
doing this because, I see Yuri Hosfeld doing
Right.
it, and I see, Rebecca Rush doing it. I see these
Now, all of our
seasoned
listeners-
pros are like, well, they're all riding with a buff
Yeah.
that they can pull over their mouth, and I'm like, oh, you get so hot and it's hard to breathe, and then I go out and do a race, and oh my gosh, I just breathed in gravel dust for 4 hours,
Just
and
coughing
I'm
the whole time.
coughing, and yeah.
Is that worse than smoking a pack of cigarettes, do you think?
It's just when you're not
You need
used to
do
the
both.
hacking.
It cancels each other out.
That's why they were smoking in the old Tour de France. I get it now.
Smoking at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, riding with that buff, I would pull it over. If I was in a pace line, I'd pull it over my nose
Yeah.
and mouth and just and try to breathe a little bit more filtered air. Or if a car passes you,
Yeah.
there are some cars out there, but they're just
Or,
not that many.
Jake, maybe if a farmer comes by you and decides to spray pesticide straight into your lungs.
God. Evan and I got crop dusted by a big old tractor.
Very, very like
You know those
literally
high tractors
in
with the big boom arms that go out and
Yeah.
sprays down on the crops?
Uh-huh.
We had one of those guys dust us, and he was driving down the road, like the asphalt road.
Still
This is like the
spraying
last,
it. Yep.
and like he sees us, and he just brings his arms back in time, but he didn't turn off the sprayers, and we just got like full like dusted of like
Insecticide.
It was insecticide and chemicals, and that's all you could smell and taste. And like I took a deep breath in because I could see it coming,
it.
and
Trying
like
to hold your breath.
Oh,
yeah,
that
it
sounds
was
horrible.
pretty nasty. I caught it on the GoPro too, and I
Oh,
said,
it's
"I'm gonna
great.
picture
Yeah,
him like,
it's
hey, there's our
perfect.
buddy right here."
Did you see a lot of cars? How many cars did you guys see, do you think?
Over 60 miles, minus that last little road
10.
section. No,
Maybe.
like on the gravel roads.
Yeah, on the gravel roads.
maybe 3 or 4.
maybe 3 or 4. Yeah,
At
there are like
most.
a couple
One
trucks.
one
going by us.
tractor and 3 or 4 cars?
In about 54 miles, we saw that was the latter part. That was like the last like 2 miles. Right,
Yeah, we were on the
riding
roads
back
at
into
that
town into Yamhill. We were on like an actual paved road.
Yeah.
That's where we saw a few cars. But when we're out on the gravel roads, it was only just a couple cars, like 3 or 4 cars maybe.
Yeah.
Were they nice?
It was just that one section too where we were.
There was one a-hole that was flying down this gravel
he
road.
was flooring it.
He must have been going 50 miles an hour in a section where he had no business going 50 miles an hour in this little car. Granted, I mean, there's wide enough space, but he still should have slowed down and
I
just
don't.
not been.
I would never want to be driving that fast on gravel and whatever he was in either. So little sedan. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
yep. Finish what you were saying though. Sorry,
I
I
don't
need to
remember
catch
where
up.
I was. I lost my whole train of
You were talking
thought.
about
Got a
facial
question.
hair.
Got a question for the
talking about breathing
triathlon
gravel.
guys sitting at
Yeah.
the table.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So we've got Xterra, and
There is
Xterra, you're
Xterra.
typically doing this on a mountain bike.
Yes.
Do you think
Yep.
that triathlon will fully embrace or ever fully embrace the gravel scene to do something off
God, I
road?
so hope they do.
Absolutely.
Do you know how awesome that would be?
Well, here's the thing.
It'd be so much easier to do. It'd be much easier for the race organizers.
I mean,
Yeah.
to find proximity to a body of water that you can swim in
Easy,
might be a
which
bit of a challenge.
I don't think
I
so.
don't- I don't
think
really?
in this
well,
area,
Think
no,
about
that wouldn't be too bad.
Think about when you go out camping and whatever, and you come across this amazing lake, and it's like,
Oh, there you go, yeah.
You have the beautiful water that you can swim in, and of course you have to take a gravel road to get there. Well, to me, it's like, man, that's a two thumbs up right there, right? Like you get this beautiful gravel road and you get this beautiful lake.
Don't need to bring in the city cops to shut down intersections.
Yeah, but you might still should if it's a road, then and you're having
you
an
might
event
have
on it.
flaggers depending upon
Still,
and
I'm
then-
saying I think you would need less.
it would probably be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logistics wise, there's some potential there, and then I think running on that same kind of stuff is, in my mind, that's like
Oh, it's awesome.
butter. Do we say
Butter
butter?
and gravel.
Are we allowed to say butter on this podcast?
Did we talk about butter yet?
So yeah, I mean, I would be all for it. It's a very different element, when you're doing triathlons, you're typically in aero bars and aero helmets and all this stuff, and that doesn't exist as much on a gravel bike.
But
Maybe you
everybody's
could
going to be
slap some
riding
bars
a
on
bike
there.
that's somewhat similar, so it's all going to be relative, right? So I mean,
well, that's the
to
question.
a certain
is-
degree. But are triathletes going to go out and buy a gravel specific bike? Who knows? Are they going to maybe go grab a cross bike that
But if they have a cross bike,
their neighbor has?
It would be.
But it could bring in a lot of new people to it too, because
Yeah.
it would be
You
people
think?
who are like, I don't want to go spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a tri bike, and you go and just buy a cross. I mean,
cross
yeah.
bike.
So
I think it's
be more in the 800 to 1200 range.
yeah.
I think Xterra is a little bit more established at this point. I think a gravel race would be a niche kind of race, which I think is okay.
Yeah.
I think it would attract a small group of people,
So-
and I would be all for it.
I would be in that small group of
Would you
people.
rather go
it'd be
do
fun.
like a bicycle trail, like a mountain bike trail race, versus the gravel roads that we rode on at Yam Hill?
Much rather do the gravel roads. I would 100% rather be on gravel than that.
But Evan
Realistic-
doesn't ride mountain bikes.
I do not ride mountain bikes. Yeah,
and neither
this is
do
true.
I. So
I
neither
love
do
mountain bikes,
but
but I feel like more triathletes would be able to translate into gravel better than mountain biking. Just if you're looking at the wide range of like cycling skills in a triathlon world.
I think it would be more of a natural progression for a triathlete to come off of like training on a road bike and doing TT, or like riding on a TT bike, and then going and doing gravel, as opposed to saying, I want to go try this off road stuff,
Yeah,
and all
like
of a sudden have to
single
get on a
track
mountain
stuff.
bike and having
Yeah.
to have bicycle handling skills that they might
Right.
not necessarily be known
Right.
for. I think a gravel might be a
it's
nice
a nice
natural
balance,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and I just think that you would get a smaller group, right? Like so we could put a race together, and
Gotta start somewhere.
You could do something like on Mount Hood where there's really great lakes and tons of good gravel roads.
yeah, that
so you
would
could
be a
easily
good
put that
little
race
combo.
together. I don't think you'd get a huge crowd. I mean, you're not going to go
Yeah.
super long. Like your distance is going to be Olympic distance
Yeah.
at the most. You probably do a sprint and an Olympic distance race.
you'd
two
have
races.
to grow a niche crowd, and I think
The people that would
maybe in this region you could get a pretty solid showing, but it would take some years. It would take some time.
The people that would show up would absolutely love it, and they would be your
It would be a cult
best.
following.
It would be
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a cult following, yeah. But it's just one of those things where you would.
Do you remember the Overland Triathlon?
Yeah.
Do you think we could like talk
Make
to
that-
Eric and be
No,
like,
I mean,
hey,
those
want
are-
to start the coolest race of all time?
We could do it. It's
Yeah.
just like that's with that group you're talking about 20 people, and it's like
Right.
That's great, but that triathlon's already a small sport, so
Yeah.
it's just tough. It's a tough sell.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
But I think for cycling, it's an awesome progression, because as we've talked on this podcast before about the death of road racing, and I say that like tongue in cheek. I mean, we read these articles that are not
Right.
exactly positive about the outlook of road racing right now. I think gravel racing is the exact opposite, where it's this awesome, like looking into the future of, hey, if this thing keeps
good.
on growing at the rate that it's growing, that's good.
Well, it's
So-
in its grassroots, growing phase right now. So,
Do you think it's gonna max out?
Yep.
People, it'll max out at
It
some
will.
point, and people are just gonna be like, and that's our number, and
Yep.
it's not that big.
I
Compared to,
don't know if that'll happen in the next 2 years, but it's
next
going to
10.
max out in the next 10 for sure. It's been around for 10 years. It's been growing every year since then, but it will hit a point where it will max.
Be
I
interesting.
think.
Yeah. Unless we can get more people out riding bikes.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Real quick, then, another couple questions for you here. Do you got any good tips for us?
Lance already came up with the best tip yet.
It's the
Ride with the buff.
Ride with the buff.
Any other
a good
tips
one.
you can give us, though?
Make sure that you wear thick socks around your shins. We were talking about this during the ride because
some stuff kick up.
Well, and that's just what I found. Like, I have this pair of skiing socks that I wear, and it really dulls the blow of a rock getting shot at your shin real
and
nice.
it's not you that's shooting the bike; it's your buddy.
yeah, it's everybody
that's
else
riding it.
around
Just-
you. Yeah,
All of a sudden, you hear this rock going ping, like hitting
Yep.
somebody's tire or frame, or like out in the bushes. Yeah,
What I've found most in the gravel races that I've done, there is a lot more road-like race tactics and racing than I expected.
yeah.
I'm in a pace line almost the entire race, or I'm in a group, or I'm working with 2 or 3 certain people to try to pull somebody back or to pull away from somebody. So if you're racing in a gravel race, it's good to know road racing strategies. a
Sure.
bit.
But
Yeah.
you're missing out on the views. When you're racing, you're racing. You're not.
get
You're
that
not
tunnel
looking
vision
at
thing
the goat chewing on
Now-
a
Correct.
wire.
It's
Now,
all-
fence.
it depends on if you're experiencing the race or if you're racing it.
Now, when you're racing, Lance, let's say that you're going down there's a little bit deeper gravel, let's say in a section. I think now, would you say the difference maybe is that in a road race, there's many different lines you can choose there, and gravel really narrows down the areas that you can kind of slot
Yeah.
yourself?
Every race I've done, all the descents, it splits up. The descents split up because it's just so much more. Everybody's descending ability is different, and once you hit the flat after the descent, you end up kind of grouping back up. Or if you hit the climb, it kind of groups back up. But there's a lot of road racing strategy that goes if you're actually going to race the gravel races.
Well, also, I feel like descending is so much more important on the gravel than it is obviously on the road, because if you're
Yep.
a sketchy descender, you're going to break even more on gravel than you ever would on the road.
Yeah.
What about non-racing situations? Now, some of the things that come to mind for me is like which can kind of be slotted into that con part of like gravel racing is like it's very remote. You're going to be out.
Yes.
You could theoretically be out in the middle of nowhere. We're talking about no cell service. We're talking
Yes.
about like the potential for mechanicals or injury. What kind of tips would you give folks for going out and just doing gravel rides just to be prepared?
Well, this is a very unpopular opinion, especially in road racing. But on almost all my gravel rides and gravel races, I wear a backpack.
Yep. That's not a bad idea. When
I-
we were doing
sound
the
like a
ride this past weekend, John Hatfield was wearing a backpack.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what? That's actually not a half bad idea.
No, I use a Camelback product called the Chase Vest.
Uh-huh.
And why did I get the Chase Vest? Because Yuri Hasfold has one and Rebecca Rush has one, and I saw all these, fast pros that were all doing these
Sure.
races with a backpack. So you have a water reservoir in it, but you can also have more gear, potentially for mechanicals. So a couple of tubes instead of just what's in your flat kit.
Right.
Extra sealant if you might potentially need it. A plug kit for your tubeless tire.
I need all these things.
You can carry like 3 or 4 CO2s instead of just the 1 or 2 that's in your.
Do you do a
just
chain,
a hand pump.
like something work on chain? Chain
I
breaker?
haven't. No, I haven't taken that.
Chain
but-
breaker. Yep.
But
Master link.
you can just take more stuff. Plus, you can pack more food in it. It's not just in your pockets. It's a lot more accessible. These vests have pockets on the front straps that are easy to
Access.
Yeah, easy to access. You put all your food and stuff in there, and so I've done. I started doing it with a Chase Vest, and
Have you weighed said Chase Vest when you get it all packed up to see how much more it's going to weigh you?
it's like 10 pounds.
Yeah,
because
but it's worth-
mostly
that's the
water.
trade-off.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if it's getting lighter as the day goes on because you're consuming the water, then that's not terrible
And
bad.
if you don't have to stop at a
Rest station.
at a rest station to refuel,
It's a minute to 2 minutes right there.
yeah,
Have you given any thought to that satellite phone?
I have not. That sounds
Have you?
super heavy and expensive.
Is it? Okay.
So yeah,
I think you should consider it for some of this crazy
Matt's
stuff
always
you do.
worried about me. because
Okay.
I'm out in the middle by myself.
Lance is guilty of this one, and my recommendation would be when you go do these gravel rides, do it with somebody else.
Yeah, or
Lance,
tell somebody where you're going.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
That would
but
be-
riding with somebody else, obviously, if like something goes awry, like having somebody there with you is going to be good. If you have a wreck, if you have a mechanical, the likelihood of them having maybe something that you don't have, or being an extra set of hands to fix things or to care for you, or vice
Right.
versa, I think that's a pretty sound idea.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I do these races with a backpack, and I think a lot of the faster guys do that as well. The trade-off is worth it.
Do you travel? I got a frog in my throat here. Do you travel with any first aid?
No.
No.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Maybe Alan Plank might have mentioned, like, hey, don't you think that there's some things? I don't know if it's Alan Plank. Someone recommended that that might be something that we should consider carrying on all of our road rides.
Yeah.
Like, that's just be able to patch a tire, be able to patch your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've I've crashed in a lot of gravel races, but it's all just skin. It's just bleeding.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're descending
So
and you
far,
catch a
that's been the
pothole at
case.
40 miles an hour that you didn't see, and you go over the bars and break a few things. I
Yeah.
mean, what are you going to do now?
That
Well, you
could
guys are
definitely
making this
happen.
race sound so awesome right now.
Trying to put a lot of pressure on Lance to get this satellite phone. I'm more worried about you being like out on the adventure van and just being like, here's a gravel road. and
Oh,
just
let's
like-
go ride it. I've done that.
I know you have. You always do that. But it's just like, there's a bear attack or
There
something.
was some spot in Nevada that I was literally just driving down the road and saw this gravel road that just looked. I literally just pulled over and jumped on my gravel bike. I'm riding up that.
Was that in Great Basin National Park by chance?
No, that's in Utah.
Oh, no, part of that goes into Nevada, actually.
Does it?
I only know that because when I was driving to St. George, I was in Nevada, and part of it was Great Basin National Park, and it was truly the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there's nothing out
Oh,
there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like scary middle of nowhere. It's like hills have eyes, have middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, so I have stopped where there's like no cell service and nothing out there. And
My worry is he's going to get kidnapped out there.
That's not my
I'm
fear.
kind of scrappy.
By a bear. By a
I'm
bear.
scrappier than I look.
By a bear or a
It's
cougar.
just like you can get far away, and sometimes you'll have like a loop in mind, and it's like 60 miles or whatever. And if you're 30 miles out from your van, it's a long walk.
You know, I've told this story before, and this happened to me about 7 or 8 years ago, where I was on my road bike doing a ride around the Oregon City area of Portland, and I did not realize that there were 15 miles of gravel, and I was on road tires, road width, and I totally flatted on it, and was literally 20 miles away
Anywhere, yeah.
from there. I had gone through a gate to get on the road,
Right.
and so there were no cars,
Just no
there was no cell service, and I literally considered, okay, I'm going to walk for 20 miles to get to a spot where I can get picked up, and that was a bit of an issue.
I'm like going online right now to buy a plug kit, like as we talk, as we're having this conversation, because I mean I've already proven at this table I am the least prepared for all situations of bad things that can happen. So, like
you
we're
better be
talking
riding with
about
other
this
people.
now. Yeah, it's gonna be like at Yamhill. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like go off the side of the road. Nobody's gonna find me. I'm just gonna wake up.
So
Really wish I
last
had a
year,
radio phone.
last year, Rebecca's Private Idaho in the first.
Probably finish your story about where you were.
yeah, okay,
20,
yeah,
'cause
so-
everyone's gonna be like,
What happened?
He died.
I'm still here, and I died. This is the reincarnated Lance that's sitting here speaking with you.
Well, the old Lance was very different.
I ended up riding on my rim
Oh yeah.
because
Hey, desperate times.
Ruin the rim.
I ruined the rim and the tire.
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, I'm either going to be 4 hours walking to get to somewhere where I get picked up,
Right.
or I sacrifice this rim and tire. And of course, it was very slow because it's very unsafe to ride on a
rim.
rim.
Yep.
Did you have to descend still in some sections?
Yeah, and that was super
Did you walk the
slow.
bike down
the
I
descent?
didn't because
Yeah.
I was able to manage it.
Yeah.
But
And the tire can get stuck in.
correct.
there's
If it
lots of-
comes off the rim,
yeah.
it didn't ever completely come off the rim.
But
And I
yeah.
finally got to a spot, and I saved like one tube and one CO2 in case I got to a spot where
where you could ride.
I could ride. And I had to do that for like 12 miles or something like that. And I got to a spot where I was able to get enough air into a new tube that I made it back to my truck safely. But yeah, it was a bit sketchy, and I was totally unprepared for it. I was on the wrong bike.
Well, no, but you were prepared for it because you had years of triathlon training. And as me and Matt know, if you get stuck 20 miles away from your car, but you've run a marathon before,
You're like,
Yeah.
technically you can
Well,
still make it.
That was the thing, is I knew, okay, I can walk
Worst case scenario.
roughly 3 or 4 miles an hour. That's
Yep.
going to take me 4 hours. And I figured, okay, that's
yeah.
it's doable if I want to live. So I'm going to do it, right?
Yeah, at that point, talk about a forced workout. You're
Right.
like, all right, well, I'm 20 miles away from the car.
And that was a little premature. I realized after about 10 miles, I was back in, cell service, and I was back onto a road where there was some traffic, and I could have flagged somebody down to get me. But that,
Pride at that point.
yeah, right. I'm like, no, I can do it myself. It's so stupid. Anyway, getting back to this other story at Rebecca's Private Idaho this last year, on the first stage, it was a 50-mile stage, 47-mile stage. I was 10 miles into it, and I flatted.
Yeah.
Now, I'm on tubeless tires, and what basically I had tried to rail through this rock garden,
And that went well.
and that did not. And I ended up flatting. I just missed one sharp rock, and my rear tire flatted.
Sealant didn't.
Did you burp it or?
It didn't burp it. It actually punctured it.
Okay.
And
How good is so? Being a complete novice, in this, how good is the sealant on how big, like a laceration can be?
Depends on what sealant you use.
Okay.
Stan's has a little bit smaller particle size than, say, orange sealant. Orange sealant has a little bit bigger particle size, and it's supposed to be able to patch something bigger.
holes,
And I run orange in my stuff.
Gotcha.
In my tubeless tires. So I felt it go flat. I realized it wasn't completely flat, so I knew that it sealed, but it needed air. So I had to stop, pull off, and I just had to hit it with the CO2. But I didn't spin the tire first enough to make sure that sealed all the way.
That was the part that I was learning this weekend. Is you
gotta
get it down to the
spin
bottom
it.
and then really spin
Yeah,
it.
or just make sure that enough sealant is coming out until it stops in that spot. And I was just like, race mode. I don't want to lose the guy ahead of me too far. If I just hit it with this CO2, I'm only going to lose like 60 seconds. And so, boom, I hit it with my CO2. It pumped back up. I went a half mile and had to stop and do it again.
Gotcha.
Because it just didn't seal quite well. But at that point, it sealed good enough. I did not have to put a tube in. I didn't have to pull my tire off. Those stops were literally like 1 minute each.
Yeah.
But you've learned what you kind of need to have.
Because I've had now the sealant catch twice, but I've never had to put a tube in. So I need to practice all these things before this race, make sure I can do them quickly. Because I'm used to obviously just you're 21 on a road bike is easy, but that's unless you have a nail that goes straight through it in Vancouver Lake, but
Vancouver Lake sometimes
a nail puncture your rim.
I have been on a gravel ride before, and I ripped the tire wide enough that sealant or a plug did not work.
Right.
What do you do?
I was lucky enough that my wife was close by. And I'm like,
so if you're in the middle of a
I'm
race,
done.
20 miles away, you just cry. You just run back.
you're just done. Yeah. And a lot of these races will have some kind of tech
somewhere.
supports, somebody on a motorcycle driving around to kind of help things out.
You could theoretically have a whole tire to put on.
Technically,
You got a backpack, man. You got your backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you got to get the sealant on it too.
Oh,
Or it's pretty scary to
Pretty
ride.
rare.
That backpack's gonna end up weighing 30 pounds though.
Yeah.
I got a lot of more stuff that you can add to the backpack.
That's what they used to do at the tour. When you see the old pictures,
Right.
they had just the two tires strapped around them. Yeah.
There you go.
Basically, you're planning for flats and for small mechanical stuff. Anything bigger than that, and your race day's done.
Yeah.
So,
All right, here's another question and a cough. Sorry about that. What makes gravel bikes different? And that's going to kind of parlay into our next question. That can you use your current bikes for gravel riding? And there's a big, maybe. So let's talk about what makes gravel bikes different. Anybody want to jump into that?
So
It's
if
a
you're
geometry question on the bike.
Yeah, so geometry is more similar to a road bike compared to a cyclocross bike. They're very, very similar to cyclocross bikes. I think a lot of people, and I'm guessing a percentage of our listeners would do this, would be you take a cyclocross bike, you use it as a gravel bike.
you can.
No
yes.
problem. No problems with that.
That's what I keep on saying is I have a
There is
gravel
problems
bike.
with that.
I actually have a cyclocross bike. It's
There
a
is
Crux.
problems with that, just so you know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lance.
The major difference between a cyclocross bike and a gravel bike is the angle, the geometry of your head tube. So how far your front wheel is out ahead of you. The farther your front wheel is out ahead of you, the more stable you are, especially on descents.
Yeah, that would be referred to as how slack the bike
how
is.
slack the bike is. The gravel bikes are more slack.
Correct.
And they're usually in the 60-degree range, whereas cyclocross bikes are usually in the 40-degree range.
You need to be able to make tight turns. There's all
yes.
kinds of reasons.
Thank you, Lance, for
this.
giving me the excuse why I'm terrible at descending on my cross bike.
It's
it's not
much
your fault.
more difficult to descend fast on a cyclocross bike than it is on a gravel bike.
See, this is the only reason.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other little things too. Like the head tube is taller, and then you have a little bit more of a descending top tube, which is going to give you better standover height for the gravel bike, which is going to make it a little bit more comfortable. But the wheelbase is going to be longer. It's going to make it a lot more stable.
Yes.
It's going to be far less twitchy. But
And the chain stays longer as well, too.
Yeah.
Which just gives you, like we were already talking about, gives you that more stable base.
And a higher range of gears that you can ride.
Yep. as in Jake's case, which he's riding a what's your smallest gear?
Well, I'm running a 1x
Biggest gear,
setup,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's a 1x12 setup. So it's a
3852.
It's a 1050.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So it's
a
got a
big
big
range.
giant range on it. Now, right now, I
Have a
currently
50 in the front. Okay.
no. The front I have a 38.
No,
The
38.
rear is the smallest cog is a 10, and the biggest is a 50.
He's trying to climb up the
So-
side of a mountain.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to change that from a 38 to a 44 because
Gotcha.
I'm spinning out a little bit once I hit about 34, 35 miles an hour. And
Yep.
I don't want to be at a 130 cadence trying to keep up with people on flats and downhills.
Right.
So, but the profile of the bike too is going to be a little bit lower to the ground, so you're going to have a little bit better center of gravity
Exactly,
with
yeah.
the gravel bike. Whereas the cross bike's going to have a little bit higher of a bottom bracket area, which allows you to
Get
clear
over
obstacles and barriers.
Right.
So there's
So
a
let
lot
me-
of little differences there.
Let me ask you this: can you take a gravel bike and use it for cyclocross?
Yes, you can, but they're not as snappy.
nimble. They're not
Cornering.
nimble.
Right.
So you do.
But if you're like Evan and you're not taking,
Yes.
Hey,
do
whoa.
you think Evan should have a gravel bike or a cyclocross bike if he were to?
I don't think Evan is going to actually race cyclocross, so it'd be more beneficial to have a gravel bike.
Right.
But
he could
it's
probably
expensive.
if he does one or two
Yeah.
cyclocross races, he would just use his gravel bike.
Yes.
Right. So
Well,
for
but-
him, the bike that makes the most sense is a gravel bike.
Is a gravel bike,
Which
But
is why I went out and bought a cyclocross bike.
Well, it's because
got a
you
great
had
deal.
an opportunity and a great deal to
Oh,
get a
yeah.
cyclocross
And
bike, so
absolutely.
you do it.
Yeah.
And I think.
And
honestly,
I mean, to be honest, outside of, I will admit there are some sketchy descents where I definitely don't feel super safe on the bike, but like outside of that, descending wise, it feels great.
So-
the thing corners like a dream.
What
it really
you need
does.
to know is that when you're on your cyclocross bike and you're on a descent, your weight has to be further back. If you have your weight
Yep.
more forward, or if you're like in the drops,
Yeah.
you just know, okay, there's more potential for issue if
cagey.
I'm actually in the drops. You got to be back a little bit further if you're on the.
Yep.
Here's why I know this. So
I know,
see
I know
this
this is
scar
from personal
story.
experience.
see this
yeah.
scar right here and here. It's gonna be.
So I was the first year I did Rebecca's Private Idaho. I went out and pre-rode the course, and I actually rode it on a cyclocross bike.
Gotcha.
And I was pre-riding one of the courses by myself on a cyclocross bike, and I was doing a descent. I hit a softer patch of gravel, and I wasn't in the drops, but as soon as I hit that spot, boom, I went right over the handlebars. Just because more weight forward, and I'm totally alone, no cell service. I hit my head very hard. I broke my glasses. And I thought, what? I'm actually a good descender. What just happened here? I have ridden this spot, before and been fine, and that was part of the issue. And I realized it's because I'm on my cyclocross bike. It's a less slack of an angle. It's more weight right underneath my hands. And
Weren't you running some 33 tires
Yep,
on there
I
as
was
well?
also on 33
Somebody
tires.
came up to you at that race and told you, hey, you
you
should run
doing?
some 40s or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
See, I'm riding the 33s right now, and since Yamhill's really the only gravel race I'm looking at doing
Right.
this year, I think I'll be fine there. But yeah, I mean, if it's a deeper, if you're going to a race and there's going to be deep gravel there, like the 33s are.
or you come borrow an extra set of 40s that I just have
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
in my garage.
Oh, I'm probably going to. I just really want to ride the 33s for Yamhill, but if we're doing anything deeper, then I'm definitely.
So
yeah.
once I bought an actual gravel bike and put and I just have 40s on my gravel bike, and there are some races where you can get by with 33s or 38s, but man, now I'm just so comfortable with those 40s on, and I just like leave them on there.
Yeah.
I go back and do that same section on my gravel bike, and
even blink.
you don't even blink.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not even nervous that I'm going to go over the handlebars because it just feels that much more stable, especially at speed, especially over looser gravel. It was like I didn't like screw up when I crashed. It was literally the angle of the head tube that caused the issue.
Yeah.
And so
I can 100% back that up. I mean, for me, I've only done 2 gravel races. I did the Gorge Gravel Grinder and I did Yamhill.
You did both of those in a cyclocross?
Both of those on a cyclocross bike. Both of those bikes were 1x systems too, and the gearing was not even
spun
close.
out.
Yeah, I spun out. Like I would spin out on those bikes at like 27, 28, 29 miles an hour. I can at least get a few more miles an hour on mine. And I think I'll have solved once I get that bigger ring. But you're spinning out. But you can definitely feel that twitchiness. But another thing too and this is another thing that a lot of people don't think about, the comfort level that comes from riding a gravel bike versus a cyclocross bike for longer periods of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, when we did the Amhill ride over this weekend, yes, my shoulder was trashed, but that's because my shoulder's a POS.
But the legs felt great.
But everything else felt good. Like my back felt good. My legs
Yeah.
felt good. Like I felt like, all right, if my shoulder wasn't a problem, I probably could have ridden a full century and been fine on that
Yeah.
bike. It was so comfortable. And I'm riding the BMC URS, or the URS, which is short for unrestricted. Which is a great bike. It's got 40 mil tires on there, super cush. It's got that little 10 mil elastomer deal in the back end and the seat stays, which actually dampens a lot of the trail chatter and the gravel chatter that you're going to pick up from riding on the road, and it softens that up. And you couple that with the geometry of the bike, and you've got a really plush ride that's super fun to ride. And that bike's super responsive too. So I'm really
See,
high on
Matt,
that bike
this
right
is,
now.
This is why
Another-
triathletes are great at this, is because
Triathletes.
I'm so used to being incredibly uncomfortable on a bicycle for extended periods of time. Actually, the cyclocross bike for me has been a pretty comfortable ride, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. But I'm also comparing it to like
A TT bike.
yeah, like going out for 3 hours in the aero position.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's very
Where
in
all
that
your
in that
weight's
aero
on the
position, you
handlebars.
hit a little unevenness in the concrete, and you feel like you just jabbed yourself.
I got
so.
another hard question for you guys.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
Not a
we
question.
talked about taking a cyclocross bike on the gravel. What about taking a road bike on the gravel? What now? Here's
We have people who
hear
do
me
this
out.
on the team.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of your older bikes and things like that have pretty narrow clearances for you can only ride so wide of a tire on those.
Some yes, some no.
But more modern bikes seem to be giving some pretty wide clearance. What are your thoughts on just taking your road bike and slapping some bigger tires on there?
28.
So I've done this. I've done this
Well,
a couple of times as well.
You can probably you can get bigger than 28s on a lot of the newer road
definitely.
bikes.
Definitely.
So on my road bike, I ride a BMC Team Machine.
Yep.
And it has clearance for 28.
Can you go bigger?
You
No.
probably. I don't think you go
No,
much
two or
bigger.
something.
Can't go bigger than a 28.
we have
So-
mine sitting right there. We can try it.
Well, no, yours is a different frame, and that was what my
gotcha,
point was going
okay.
to get, because yours is a road machine, not a team machine.
Yes,
the
yes,
road
my bad,
machine's
yeah.
more of like a Roubaix style bike.
So you can get a little bit wider on it.
So yeah, it's built more for compliance. It's built more for endurance. It's built more for being able to put different kinds of tires in there. So like the BMC road machine is like what you have. It's kind of like their Swiss Army knife of a bike, and you
Yeah.
can.
I have a knobby
I gotta
pair
go
of
double check,
33s
but I
wanna
want
put
to
on
say
there.
that you could put 33s on that
Yes,
bike.
good, because I have a real knobby pair of 33s I was hoping to put on
I'm
there.
pretty sure. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that you can put a 33, maybe even a little bit bigger. Don't quote me on that.
33s
but
would be okay,
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure 33 will fit on there.
Oh, that's
and
made my day.
What's nice about that is like this bike then becomes a bike that you can go do gravel rides on, and the geometry is a little bit more lax. It is a little bit more like a gravel bike. It's not a full gravel bike, but I would say it's more like a gravel bike than a cross bike is.
Right.
Well, and you could ride it for cross. You could ride it for gravel. You could.
So dumb question
everything.
here. What is the ride comparison on how carbon feels on gravel versus how aluminum feels on gravel? I'm riding aluminum on my gravel right now, and it feels
these
awesome. I
guys
like
don't
it.
know. They
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
ridden
Well,
Well,
aluminum.
you're going to get a little bit more compliance
Carbon
out
for
of
both,
carbon.
okay.
It's going to be a little bit softer. I mean, it's going to be.
See, I like the aluminum ride so far. It feels nice.
All right.
Yeah.
well,
Maybe the carbon ride feels even
Wait,
better.
is
to
your
each his own.
cyclocross
Yeah.
bike is aluminum?
Yeah.
I think it's hard to tell.
When you
Yeah.
look at the
a cross,
flex
yeah.
of aluminum or any kind of a steel bike versus carbon fiber, you're just going to get a little bit more flex out of that carbon fiber, which is going to give you a little bit more compliancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be like a huge difference, but to a discerning cyclist, they're going to probably feel that difference. And some people might like that stiffer feel. And if you want to make it a little bit more supple, you can play with tire pressures.
I just like knowing that if my bicycle was to get sideswiped by a bull, the bike wouldn't snap in half. I just like knowing that in the back of my head while I'm riding.
You need a steel bike.
I do.
Steel or
I
titanium.
needed to be born in the year 1952, but I wasn't.
You can
so-
still get steel bikes.
Yeah, I know.
I'll sell you one. I got one.
They should have, as we go into gravel grinding conversation, they should have steel bike races. Like literally have
believe-
just a race that like
I
requires steel
believe
bike.
that's what Strade Bianchi kind of, or the La Eroica in Tuscany, Italy was. You
it was only steel?
You only ride bikes older that were made before like 1972.
That's
That
cool.
is awesome.
all your equipment
so
has to be
awesome.
before like 1972,
That would be
and it's
fun.
on some gravel.
All
and-
right,
oh,
I'm
yeah.
putting that
But
one
it's
on the
in
bucket.
Italy.
That's on the bucket list right now for me.
You have a titanium bike, don't you?
I do have a titanium.
I think that's a
rain
great
bike. It's
I feel
just
like that's a great
bomb-proof.
combo. Yeah. It's like
Yeah, titanium would
slap
be your
that
best
thing
answer.
around. Yeah.
So getting back to your road bike, can you ride it
Sure.
on gravel question? So my BMC team machine
28s.
I have 28s on it, and they're 28 tubeless that I'm riding.
And you
on
always
this.
go with 28s
Well,
pretty much, don't you?
when I'm road racing, I'd like to have 25s.
Do you? Okay.
But it depends on the
Sure.
situation. But I've had 28s on it for this last 6 months or something like that. But last year I did I did a fondo in Boise, Idaho.
Okay.
That was roughly 90 miles or something like that, and there were like 30 miles of gravel on it. And
That makes
I
sense.
specifically chose to ride that bike with my 28s, even though there was all this gravel on it. And I did just fine.
Yeah.
Did you adjust tire pressure
Yes.
specific to the gravel and then just deal with it on the road?
I kind of split the difference.
Did you?
Yeah. I
Did you, when you were riding onto the gravel, did you like reach your finger down there and like press the press? You have to do it occasionally as the wheel comes around and the press valve comes around, so you can. You have to be real fast.
I did not.
Got to time
You
it.
only lost 3 fingers.
Lost a couple
Yeah.
of fingers. But it was definitely harder to ride through the gravel sections, and the gravel was a lot softer than I was anticipating,
Okay.
which is much harder on a 28 tire than
God,
if
yeah.
you're riding a 40 or a 38.
Yeah, when you start dealing with washboard and you start getting
Yeah.
into that chunkier gravel and there's not really a clear defined line that you can ride on some compact stuff, those 28s start to feel like they
Right.
might as well be 19s or 20s or something like that.
And
So-
I made the conscious decision,
Yeah.
at the start. This is mostly road. I'm going to stick with my road bike,
Yeah.
and I'll just make it through the gravel stuff. And it ended up being like a 100-degree day, and I fully cramped and blew apart at like mile 70 because it was just way too hot. But that's a whole nother story. But I was able to finish it and finish well on that gravel. I also told the story a couple weeks ago when I was in Louisiana, and I went out to do this 80-mile
yeah.
loop,
It
and
was all
50 of it
gravel, yeah.
was gravel, and I was on my road bike and not prepared for gravel.
Yeah.
But it also did just fine with 28s running tubeless. So it
works.
it works. You can do it. It's just less comfortable and
Right.
potentially slower if it's less comfortable. But
For the Yamhill ride,
Well,
you've done the race.
I
Would
have.
you ever ride your road bike?
I wouldn't, because it's
All gravel.
90% gravel. Isn't
yeah,
it?
it
more
just
than
depends on the
90% gravel.
yeah. It's pretty heavy with gravel. Part of it depends on the weather too.
Right.
Like
if it's
so
been
yesterday,
wet for 2 weeks beforehand,
you
maybe
get some
not.
kind of like some. It's like not peanut buttery, but
There's
it's
some
pretty
muddy-
soft
there's some muddy
sections
sections.
where
Did you say butter?
butter.
Yeah, no, some very thick butter.
Yeah, and you could feel it. It would slow you down on the bigger tire, and I could only imagine being on a skinnier tire where it's going to really just start to sink in as opposed to
Yeah.
dispersing. So,
You liked the 40s that you had.
oh, I loved them. I think they were great.
33s
Yamhill
were fine.
Yeah, Yamhill last year I did that ride on 37s, and it was just fine. It was
Okay.
perfectly fine. So,
What did you ride PS like tire pressure wise?
Yamhill.
Yeah, no, just on
this
Saturday.
past weekend.
Yeah.
Well, I had just set up my tires as tubeless the night before, and like usually when you get up in the morning, you got your fingers crossed that everything held.
Right.
Front tire held just fine. Rear tire was completely flat. I'm like, great. So I went ahead and rode with a little bit extra tire pressure, and it ended up holding throughout the course of the ride. So at some point in time, I let a little bit out. Not sure quite where I ended up, but I started with 45, which is pretty heavy. Those tires that I have on those 40s, you're supposed to run them between 30 and 60. I think that's the range. Ideally, I would have liked to have been in the 35 to 40 range, but I was running a little bit extra PSI just in case. So
Here's the other thing to know, especially about you need to know the course that you're riding in a gravel race. Many gravel races will have some difficult climbing sections, and if those climbing sections have loose gravel on them, your tire choice changes.
Right.
Because it becomes about traction. You've got to be able to have traction to ride up those
Steep
grades.
climbs, yeah.
If they're steeper, I've done some gravel races where there's some 20% or 24% climbs.
Yikes.
And in those situations, and they're going to be that steep, and you know that the gravel is going to be looser.
Yeah.
And if you lose traction on something loose like that, you're off the bike.
Right.
and it's very difficult to get started again.
Oh, you're walking the bike.
You're walking the bike.
That's an insane grade for being
You are
off-road.
not restarting a gravel bike on 20% inclined deep
it's
gravel.
very difficult. So, in those situations, if you know that there's some sections like that, you need a little bit of knob on there.
Get your knob on.
You need your knob on. You need a little bit more on there.
knob. It's okay.
So you just have to know kind of what's coming up.
All right, we're starting to get a little long
Yeah,
on this
I'm
one.
yappity
I got
yapping
one
about-
last question. Will we convince Matt to get on a gravel bike and go for a ride with
I don't
us?
think it'll be that hard to convince
Are
me.
we going to convince you to
I'll
buy a
convince
gravel
him-
bike?
I'll convince him by
That's-
next week.
Yeah. I have ridden a good bit of gravel on my cyclocross bike, but not lately. I mean, I just need to go do it, or I don't love that bike. We've talked about this probably before.
Yeah.
There's some issues with that particular cyclocross bike. I need to dump it and pick up something else.
Is it
And
a
I would
track-
probably pick up a gravel bike because I'm not racing cyclocross, right?
Does Trek make a cyclocross bike?
This track, they do, but you're
Oh,
not,
they do?
You can't.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
And a
but you
gravel
can't look
bike.
at the handlebars.
Oh, well,
You just can't ride it off road.
well, I mean, just
Can't
don't
ride.
do that then. Just
You can't ride it
don't
off
be
road
dumb.
or
Yeah.
on road.
Or on road, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Trainer
that's-
only.
Great trainer bike, though. Just don't touch the handlebars.
Don't touch the handlebars.
I would love nothing more to see you on a gravel bike and go
Yeah,
for a ride
that'd
with
be
you.
fun. Oh, we'll do it.
Would
That
be
sounds
a
good.
blast.
You should make a YouTube video about how Trek is the greatest trainer bike of all time.
I have a YouTube video talking about riding gravel roads. You guys should go check out my YouTube channel.
Hey,
It's up on Mount Hood, and it was like, hey,
So-
ditch the aero bars
So this
and
is
go
Matt
ride gravel.
LeGrand on YouTube.
yeah.
And it's the picture of the guy with their shirt off on the beach, right? Is that
It's-
you?
If you've gone to
He has a video about gravel biking.
he has a gravel bike video. Yeah.
So this is interesting about Trek and gravel. So Peter Stetina,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
who rode for Trek,
Won Kanza.
yeah. Well, no.
Wait, he never won Kanza?
No. So Peter Stetina, he rode for Trek for their tour team. Like for the last 10 years, he's been a tour pro. He's done the Vuelta several times. He's he's done all their stuff. Last year, he convinced Trek to allow him to do many of these gravel races in the U.S. And he actually got into his contract to be able to do that, which is kind of cool. And so he came over and did several gravel races last year on a Trek. And he won the Belgian Waffle Ride.
That's one I was thinking of.
And he took second at Kanza because Colin Strickland rode away from everybody at like mile 120 and just like won by minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, but this year he has left Trek racing, Peter Stetina, and he is doing his own gravel course this year. His own. He set up his own thing.
Racing as an independent.
Racing independent.
You mean
for him.
he's just he's paying for his own bike?
Well, he got like 10 sponsors lined up to be able to help him do these races. He's just basically doing it independently, but with his own sponsors. And he's going to be riding a Canyon.
He would rather pay for his own bicycle MSRP than ride a free track.
I do not believe he's paying for his own bike.
I'm joking. I know he's probably I'm sure he's getting multiple free bicycles.
Well, he's got enough history that he was able to find pros to help him out. Is he going to make as much as being a tour rider? No, but
If
he may be able to pave a lane for that.
Well,
though.
if like we're talking about gravel riding becoming more popular, I could see
Sponsors
people being
jumping on
able to
board
make
with him.
money
Right.
in the sport.
yeah, it's just been growing. So he has great sponsors, Shimano and Canyon, and all
if you think about the bike industry right now, and this being it's probably the fastest growing segment out of all bikes.
By
and
far.
Yeah.
manufacturers are bringing bikes to the market faster than they can shake a stick at. They want people out there riding their bikes, and if you've got one of the best guys out there, right, he's making money.
Yeah.
He's doing all right because
Canyon's
everybody wants a
been-
piece of that pie.
Canyon's doing well
there's
lately in multiple.
Yeah.
Canyon, I want
Triathlon
to
road.
Yeah, I want to talk about Canyon in local bike shops on a podcast.
yeah, we
Let's
should.
let's
'cause
bring that
that's
up as a topic
It's
because
a whole issue.
I have been thinking about this, like waking up in the middle of the night being like, man, there's some issues within this industry that I would like to discuss.
These are the things that we wake up about at night.
It's such a weird thing, and I'm like, I will make a YouTube video at some point too, as well. But like anyway.
I just last night woke up thinking like 33s or 38s. I don't know. I don't know. What? I know. Like, how deep is the gravel? I'm not sure.
All right.
these are problems.
One last thing, Evan, start us off.
Oh God. So I want to bring this up on the next podcast. So anybody who's interested, I would love to hear your opinions on the Professional Triathlon Organization, or as I told Jake, PTO, and I not mean paid time off, because this may be a shock to you all, but we don't get paid heavily for this podcast. So Jake denied me PTO, but denied. But there is a new group out in triathlon that is, I won't say they're claiming to be a union at the moment, but they are marketing it as a union for professional triathletes.
Right.
And if you have any triathletes on your social media, you have probably seen some marketing material for this already. So
their marketing material is Instagram, a picture of a pro, and underneath it says PTO, or like the Professional Triathlete Organization. And it's like,
yes.
That's it. That's their that, and they've
They are
Lucy
attached to
Charles seems to be pushing it pretty hard.
Yep, they are attached to the Collins Cup, which is a race in Europe that's coming up very soon, like May something, I think. But yeah,
Evan and I had talked about it prior to pressing record. There's more discussion for sure.
There
to be
is
had.
Shocking news. I was not asked to join the PTO. Very shocking. I know. I was heartbroken. But
Which is actually I actually think is a problem with that. I think
I
that
agree,
it should be like all or none. So
yep.
okay, for another topic for another day.
Lance.
I guess my only thing I'd share is I will probably not be here next
Dang.
Monday.
Okay.
Lance on location.
I'm not sure I'm going to be available. I might. It's all up in the air.
Uh-oh.
Where are you gonna be?
I'm headed to Utah for my buddy's Super Bowl party.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then
Where to next?
I'm going to get my legs waxed. From there,
So on Monday, you're just
Traveling south, young man?
I'm going to head south. I'm trying to find some warm weather for about a week. And so
Can you call
Are
in
you
from
that
the-
old now? Like, are you that old? And Lance is like, oh, it's a
Now,
little
are you
too
gonna-
chilly now.
It's a
Are
little
you going
too
to make
chilly.
your way down there for training camp, or are you going to come back first?
I'll come back first. But
Man, you're crazy.
yeah, I think I'm going to go to St. George for a day or two, and then I'll end up in Arizona for probably a week before I come back to leave for
So
training camp.
get your legs waxed and
Yep.
get your sun on.
Get your
Yeah,
tan on.
that's where I'm headed.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Get your handlebars on.
Are you gonna? Can you call into the podcast from the wax chair?
Yeah, can we do a Lance on location while
You know,
getting
it
waxed?
was videoed last
Yeah,
year
yeah.
and shared, and it was
Experience.
quite embarrassing.
That's getting shared. Absolutely.
Okay. Look forward to that next week, guys.
Hey, Jake, would you mind telling us the platforms that Lance's waxing video will be shared on here coming up?
It's gonna be on the gram.
Stay tuned. Matt, one last thing.
I have something for all of our triathlete listeners.
Oh, good.
Well, anyone really.
But mostly just the triathletes.
This week I'm going to post a video, and it's like somehow, with Blue 70, they've sent me a couple pairs of goggles, so I get to give away 2 pairs of goggles to 2 listeners who
And
comment on the video. And if you happen to watch and comment on this video, you can be in the running for either of these pair of goggles. And one of the pairs is like a $35 pair of goggles, which they're pretty nice. But watch the video and check it out and see what you think.
So if they reference the podcast, do they get some preferential treatment, or is this going to be all random generated?
I was going to do random generated, but now that you mentioned it,
That could be interesting. What day will this drop?
either Tuesday or Wednesday, by the time this podcast goes live, that video will be on YouTube. You can find it at youtube.com/MLegrand.
So if I comment on there, I can win some goggles?
Yeah.
Wear them in the shower in the bathtub?
You can wear them wherever you want.
Sweet.
Yes.
All I ask
Protect those
is
eyes in the bathtub.
when you're in the bathtub with those, just give me a photo. send me that photo, please.
Make sure you're wearing a swim cap while you're in the bathtub.
Pink swim cap.
2 last things for me. First is my heart is broken today for the Bryant family.
Absolutely.
For Kobe.
Absolutely.
I actually had the honor of meeting both Kobe and his daughter who passed away in my way back when days when I used to do different things and live down in Southern California. He actually came to my facility and we hung out for about an hour and a half, and he brought his daughter that day. And when I heard that, my daughter was the one that told me that, and like my heart just fell in my stomach. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And then she's like, oh, and his daughter was in the helicopter too. And I just like, I had to like walk out of the room. That was tough. And I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that today. I mean, yeah, he's, he had his moment where there was some like scandal and stuff like that, but that's neither here nor there. I think we all make mistakes, right? And he made up for that. And I think he's a good family man. He was good for the community. He was good for the sport, and he loved all of his daughters and his wife. So, he's gone, and that's unfortunate, but I can't stop thinking about how his wife is feeling right now and how his other 3 daughters are feeling right now. They've got to be absolutely shattered. Yeah. So my heart goes out to them, and I just hope that they can find some solace in the days, weeks, and months and years to come. So that's that. And the other thing, and you've heard us talking about gravel. I made a little gravel video, and it's up on the Dialed Cycling YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's good.
It's a good video.
It's okay. It turned out pretty fun.
The
don't
music
know.
is good. I really like the music. I was talking about the music way too much before the
So
podcast.
if you want to see what we're talking about, this whole Yamhill thing, they're going to have the Yamhill Gravel Fondo in April, and I think that this event is going to absolutely blow up. One of the promoters from Zone 5 actually joined us on the ride, David Salzberg, and was talking about that. And he, he's bracing himself. He thinks it's going to continue to grow, but I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to get more of a response this year than they're anticipating. And I think there's going to be a lot of people wanting to do this ride and race because it's such a beautiful venue. The course is fantastic. It's a good time, and they did a really good job of producing it last year. So
that'd be so cool if we had just most of the Dial team out there. Just a huge showing for them.
I think that we're going to have a big contingent out there. So there's that. And if you want to see what this course is all about, you can go watch this video. It's only 4 minutes long, and it'll give you a good snapshot of a bunch of stuff.
What it looks like, yeah.
Yeah, of what it looks like.
We should have David Salzberg on the podcast at some point.
We're talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking.
Yeah.
So
he would be. He would like that.
the guy, he knows his stuff, man. He's got stories and stories for days too. So he's a good chap. So that's my one last thing. Excellent day, huh? All right, you guys, thank you for listening. Go check us out on the social medias, at Dial Podcast on both Instagram and Facebook. And as a matter of fact, you know what? I'll post that video up on Facebook. So you can just simply click through and check that out. If you want to connect with us, that would be great for the 2020 year. We want to get back on track with our listener hot lap. So if you're interested in joining us on the podcast, it can be as little as 3 minutes all the way up to about 10 minutes of your time. And we let you come in here and chat with us a little bit and ask some questions. We do the same of you. That's a fun time. And I think everybody else that I've talked to has enjoyed talking to these people. So if you want to be that person, give us a shout. Reach out on those social media channels or info@dialpodcast.com. Email us and we'll get in touch with you. You guys all have a great week. Until next time, bye for now.